Hi everyone, I'm Matt Metzger and you're listening to Ground Etc. This season we are talking all things soil prep and landscape contracting, from the right equipment to the right crew to the business strategies you need to run a successful landscaping company. We talk to industry experts about the ground, about the work, etc. And you can tell here, once again, we get to hang out with Mr. Pete Denny down here in Reidsville, North Carolina, outside of Reidsville, North Carolina.
Yep.
And a beautiful day sitting here in your backyard. Appreciate the hospitality. Pete, thanks for taking a break with us this morning.
You're welcome.
You are normally very much on a job site by now.
I'm a pretty busy dude for the most part, but it's good to slow down and chill. And
yeah,
I like hanging out with you guys.
Oh, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Well, and want to talk a little bit today. I know last time we sat down together, we were talking your history. We were talking how you got into this. We were talking about the variety of businesses you're in, some advice for people trying to grow their businesses and spread out into different areas. This time around, why don't we talk a little bit about you as a leader in your company, you as a manager and taking care of a crew, because it's not just you at this point. It started just you.
Correct.
And if you missed that story, make sure to go back and pick up that episode. That this was back when you were hopefully going to be married, but then needed to make sure to be able to provide for your
jobless 30 days before marriage isn't a real fun thing.
Well, and this whole thing started out as a solo gig, but it now is very much not a solo gig. How many people are you working with on a day-to-day basis at this point?
So in our maintenance division, I have 6 employees, and that's we run 2-man crews on that. And then on the spray side, I have 2 crews that run.
Yeah.
And then in the office, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the office warehouse, and then myself and my wife.
Wow. So you've got quite a few crews, and not just all doing the same work. You've got all of these different people doing all this different work in different places.
There's a lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of moving parts. Well, and I want to talk about that specifically because a lot of the feedback we get from people in the industry is that, they find somebody. First of all, it's hard to find somebody. And then once they find somebody, they work hard for a little bit, but then it's just so hard to keep people. But you were telling us you've got people working with you for a pretty long time. What are some of the tenures you've got of the people you're working with?
I think Robert's been with me for 18 years, maybe.
Wow.
And Jacob maybe around 14 years. And then a couple others, 10 years or better.
Good grief. So give us some of the stories. How did you meet some of these guys that you've been working with for so long?
So my philosophy on hiring is probably a little different than traditional. I tend to stay inside my group and go to my buddies.
Yeah.
The first employee I ever had, he was actually one of my best friends.
Okay.
And I grew up with him since a little kid, went to school with him, and he was talking about getting out of public work. And I was like, well, man, I could really need some help, because I was at the point where I was doing everything myself because it was just me, and I had enough income to support another guy.
Yeah.
And it just worked out great.
Yeah.
And then as we continued, he came on board. I was able to get more business, make more income, and then I needed another guy. And he was the first guy I went to.
Yeah.
It's like, Brandon, anybody needs a job. Yeah, I know one of my buddies that's been wanting to get out of public work, and that was Robert.
Yeah.
And then Robert's been with me ever since. And so anytime I need to hire somebody, I start with my employees. Do you have a buddy? And fortunately, that has worked for us for 20 years.
Well, that seems smart, because nobody wants to recommend somebody that can't keep up with them, right? You're not going to recommend to work with somebody who's going to loaf
Believe me, we've been down that road. Oh yeah, this guy, he's great. He'll do wonderful, and he works for 2 days, and I can't handle it.
Yeah.
So so you get some bad with the good.
Yeah.
But in my circumstance, the good has been a lot more prevalent for sure.
Well, why don't you talk us through that initial jump? Because I know many guys that start out in the business, they run the solo job, they're starting to build up a revenue, they're starting to build up, but with the money comes the stress, right? Because like you were talking about last time, you're just working your tail off. It seems like one of the scariest points in business growth is that jump from solo to one other person.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making enough? Can I support it? How do I know? What if the growth doesn't come? So why don't you talk us through that specifically? What was it like getting to the point where you needed somebody else? How did you know? Like what went into that?
So one, you have to know how to do math. Basic math. Yeah. I know that sounds simple and it's like elementary, but you have to know how to do math.
Yeah.
If you are going to pay someone and they're going to be dependent on you for a paycheck, you have to know that money's going to be coming in.
Yeah.
And that comes from the way you price jobs, the way you bid jobs, of course, the quality, so you retain the customer.
Yeah.
And you have to have enough to be able to pay them. And again, I know that sounds simple, but it is that simple.
Yeah.
And if I'm making $10 and I got $11 going out, something ain't gonna work, you know?
What give us and you're right, it sounds simple, but it's the basic foundation. Can you flesh that out a little bit for us? So what are some specific numbers you were looking at? Were you comparing, revenue to, payroll, how much the guy wanted, like how much you're taking away? Like, were there some specific numbers you were looking at?
Yeah, sure. At that time, I wasn't doing a lot of contract work, like 12-month contract work. So I would have to make sure we made enough money during the growing season.
Yeah.
And I could be frugal and save that money and put it back to be able to cover a payroll during the slower times of the year.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that helped us do that was equipment, believe it or not, because we had some kind of yucky mowers. And about that time, I bought my first, I think it was an Exmark Laser Z zero-turn mower.
Yeah.
And you talking about being able to mow, I could literally mow 3 times the yards in a day. So I became considerably more efficient because of the equipment. And so I could make more money to be able to ensure that I could pay that employee.
Yeah. Well, I want to come back to that and how the kind of the connection between people size, crew size, the right people, and then how the equipment and quality equipment goes hand in hand with that.
So just like when I bought that mower, from my maintenance side, it made them more efficient. When I got my ABI Force, that made me more efficient because I do all the ball field work myself. People see the videos and all that, and they think maybe behind the scene there's 4 or 5 guys working.
I'm always looking for that. I'm always looking for like
there.
Extra guys on hand rakes or somebody else in the tractor or something.
I don't need all that because I have a Force. That thing is so nimble, so efficient, and so it just does anything I want it to do.
Yeah.
And why would I have a guy sitting there doing nothing, paying him? Because if I'm being honest, I'm going to be on my Force.
Yeah.
That's it. I just enjoy that type of work so much. So I'm literally doing what a crew of 3 or 4 people might be doing elsewhere. I'm doing it all by myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not killing myself doing it either.
Yeah. When it sounds like that's something that, it allows you by having the Force and having that much efficiency in this side of the business, this other side of the business, then you can continue to grow that as well because you've got the extra resources going the different directions.
Absolutely.
Well, and hearing you talk about efficiency for the Force in the ball field, that reminds me of that new aerator attachment under that Z23, right? The Saber unit is the unit that has that on there. You had a chance to test that out here in your own yard, right? Just right behind us.
Yep.
What did you think of that mid-mount?
Anytime you can get an aerator in your hands, it's a good day. I've got several different aerators, and the one on the bottom of the Force was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing about it was you could make turns and go around the curvature of the beds.
Yeah.
And it didn't hold up. It didn't hinder the machine in any way.
Yeah.
Where with most of the fixed aerator head units, you have to pick the head unit up, turn around, drop it back down. With the Force, you just keep getting it.
So you're gonna let your guys use that if they don't get to use on the ball field?
No. Sorry. Some things are off limits.
Well, let's talk about your team. I want to go back to that first hire because I think that's still the most nerve-wracking for so many business owners is going from a solo gig to a to a second person working
Yep.
with him. Talk us through what were some stress points? I know it sounds like there's somebody you knew. It was a buddy of yours, somebody you've probably known for a while and already trusted. But what was it like having somebody working alongside you? Any hurdles you had to overcome? Any potholes you hit along that first couple of weeks and months?
Well, when you get to that point, you start managing a person. You're not managing turf anymore.
Yeah.
Of course, I still manage turf, obviously, but you have to manage the person so that they can manage the turf the way you want it managed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And that's definitely a challenge for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very control-y kind of guy. I like hands-on. I like to, it's my baby,
Yeah.
So I like to kind of be in charge. And my wife gives me a really hard time because when I let those guys go out the first week by themselves, I was a nervous wreck.
Really?
Yeah, I was a wreck, man. Not that I ain't trust them. It's just that I wasn't there because I wanted my hands to touch the property.
Yeah.
And so you have to build up a level of trust, especially when you're a hyper peculiar guy. If you're not quite as peculiar, it ain't a big deal.
Yeah.
But I'm very peculiar about my work and my accounts, and everybody may not have that trait,
Yeah.
And so you have to teach them how to be peculiar,
Yeah.
how to notice things that are out of place. And, we're all flawed humans, and, maybe they're not just going to be that way every single time they go out where I would be. So it takes a level of patience on your part and a level of grace.
Yeah.
You have to realize that maybe they're tired today and they're not going to do the job 100% perfect today. Yeah. And you have to be able to accept that and move on.
Well, give us some of those training stories, because I think that's one thing that, I think most business owners want their people to succeed because they know if their people win, they win. But there is a level of training involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even if it's somebody you know and somebody you've already got some trust with, there's still things that need to be trained. Whether it's maybe it's the grit and the attention to detail, or maybe it's just a technical training. They need to learn how to do something. Talk us through some of the tactics that have been really successful for you in training people that are new to your crew or new to the work.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of keeping things as simple as possible.
Okay.
From a teaching standpoint, and I feel like I've been blessed with that ability to be able to teach in a simple way. I don't have to make it nerdy, and so if we're going to mow the grass a certain way or do things a certain way in the yard, I just have a good knack of breaking that down to the simplest form. I'm a system guy.
Yeah.
I love when my guys roll up to a property, things are done in a certain order, a certain way every single time.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a huge difference. But yeah, those systems, I think that's a good foundation to start, is you have to go out yourself and figure out, all right, do I want to edge the property first? Do I want to mow first?
Yeah.
Do I want to take care of the weeds in the beds first?
Yeah.
What if I got two guys? What does this guy do while the other guy's doing something else? And everything's systematic. And we got a pretty strong system. My guys can roll up to a property and get it knocked out in a matter of no time.
Yeah.
And the quality is spot on. Now, of course, they're human.
Sure.
And every now and then hey, y'all didn't get these weeds out. I got an email.
Yeah.
Run back over and knock it out for me.
Yeah.
And so, it's not a fail-safe thing, but when you give somebody instruction and systematically get them to do something a certain way, I think that alone makes it so much easier.
Well, and I love that you're talking systems, Pete, because I think it's so easy for people who, again, you started the company, you started the work, and so you knew it forward and backward. You wouldn't have to think 2 seconds about rolling up exactly what you're going to do, but transferring that to somebody else, you got to get that documented. How'd you do that? Is it checklist? Is it just repetition? You had the person follow you around? How did you get to the point where you felt 100% confident, no, they know this system. They know my system. They're going to do it how I would do it.
Oh, I'd be there watching them.
Yeah.
We're not watching them. I'm not that kind of a boss, but be out there with them.
Yeah.
And pointing and shooting. Say, you do that first, do this first. I even took it to the point to where I made sheets and put in all the trucks. And literally it was get out of the truck, step 1, step 2, grab weed eater, step 2, step 3, whatever it is.
Yeah.
While crew leader grabs mower and mows, helper does this, and just put it all right down the sheet. That way, in case I didn't remember that step. You can't say that because you got a sheet in your truck. You can look at it.
Yeah. Well, and so what would you say? Okay, because I love that kind of documentation and step by step, because again, it's not about micromanaging. It's about you having a Loctite. If you do this, you will be successful.
It's about making it easy.
Right. Yeah. Simplifying. So what would you say to, a business owner right now who's got a crew of guys and he says, man, Pete, it seems like it's too detailed. It seems like it's too much. It seems like I shouldn't have to go to that effort. How would you respond to that to say how helpful it is?
Why wouldn't you go to that effort? It's your company. Don't you want your company to be efficient and profitable and successful?
And if you know
then if you're not going to put the effort in, maybe you don't need to be running a company. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and to get your brain into someone else's, it takes some kind of transfer, right? And if it's a checklist, it's a checklist. Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody don't roll up to a yard and view it the same way.
Yeah.
Some people can't see the order of operation naturally. So you have to feed that to them and teach it to them.
Well, I think that's a good insight too, recognizing that just because you can't think that everybody thinks the way you think.
Exactly.
And so you see it a certain way, and so getting the way you see it into somebody else's mind, that takes work. It takes time.
You can't expect them to see it the way you see it. But if you're writing their paycheck, you can expect them to do it the way you want it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I were receiving the paycheck and my boss said you need to do step A, B, C, D, I'm going to do step A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
That's just the way I'm going to do it, because that's the way he's providing me income, so I'm going to honor that.
So let's talk the next step then, the next layer. So you've crossed the big scary step of bringing one person on, so you've multiplied yourself out. From there, you start to add as the number grows and you pick up efficiency, but you referenced there that you've got crew leaders. Mm-hmm. So what is it like then to not only pass off, hey, do the work the way I do it, but now you've got other kind of management or leadership structure in there. So what was that jump like? How did you know you were to the point that you needed another shot caller with you on your team?
So to back up a little bit, going from one employee to 2 employees was more scary for me than going from myself to 1 employee.
Really?
Yeah. At that time, things were a little bit tight, money-wise, and I felt like we could do it. The math said we could do it, but it was just tight. And we got my second employee hired, and the first 2 paychecks he was supposed to get, Tammy and I had to do without our paycheck because we had not received a check coming in from a customer in time.
Wow.
And so it was like, he's worked all week. I'm going to pay him. I don't care.
Yeah.
We will take the hit and we will take the struggle, and me and you will do without, babe, for a week or 2.
Wow.
And that's what we did. And fortunately, we had a little money saved up at the time. Yeah. We could do that. But that's just a sacrifice sometimes you have to make too. I'm not saying everybody should go out and do that, but if you're in a pinch, sometimes you have to make a sacrifice, because this dude's working for you and he's expecting a paycheck.
Well, and I love that on 2 folds, Pete. Not only the integrity you've got to put somebody relying on you for their paycheck, you put their needs above your own, but also there's a piece of practical wisdom there that I want to make sure that people caught. You have enough saved up that if you had to take the hit, you could.
Exactly.
And that's not just good wisdom, that's practical knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of folks look at self-employment and business owners, especially with me. They look at the videos, see all this crazy equipment and all, and they think, well, he's loaded. He can just buy anything and everything he wants. That's not the case. You have to be wise with your money. Okay, I don't really talk about that on videos and stuff of how to save and how to be frugal, but you have to just do without sometimes.
Yeah.
no matter how bad I want that new whatever.
No, I want this story. What's something that, because you knew that you were trying to make wise financial choices, give us the thing that, like, I really wanted that thing at that time, but I knew it just wasn't a wise financial decision.
When I bought my shop,
Yeah.
my property, I had a choice to buy the property, or I could go out and buy a new work truck, and I could keep renting. And at that point in time, it just was not wise to go out and buy that new work truck. I kept driving an old beater and kept getting the job done. And we bought the property that we're at now. And so,
You're striking close to the heart. I mean, for a lot of guys, that shiny new truck, that's the appeal.
Oh yeah. I've been wanting that for a long time.
Yeah.
And out of the blue, the property came available, just out of nowhere. And it's a split second decision you got to make.
Yeah.
Do I want to do what's best for Pete? And do I want to ride in that nice new truck? Or do I want to do what's best for my employees and my business and my future and my family? And, I made the right call on that one.
When it seems like a classic example of short-term thinking versus long-term. That nice shiny new truck is only nice and shiny for a while.
It's going to get dirty. It's going to get dirty.
It's still a work truck.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, so go back then to finish that story out on how scary it was for that second person that you hired on. It sounds like the first 2 weeks, that was a bit of a pain point. How did that go then? When did you start to feel more peace, feel better about that second person in the crew?
Well, it was just the same with the first guy. Once we got going, is you have more manpower, you're able to do more work, take on more jobs, make more money. And it just kind of got more comfortable as we went.
Yeah.
And, I started 20 years ago, and, in our area, the landscaping, lawn care craze hadn't hit like full blown like it is now. Everybody has a mower and a trailer now. And so we picked up a lot of accounts at a very quick pace. And so that allowed us to keep growing and growing, adding on more employees. And so it kind of got more comfortable and more comfortable and more comfortable. Something I've learned to do, and I do this today, is the way I manage my bank accounts. I have about 11 different bank accounts.
Yeah.
The maintenance pays maintenance. The spray pays spray. The ball fields pay Pete. The online pays, my employees in the office and warehouse. And I think that's a big deal versus just throwing everything in a big pot.
Yeah.
I like to micromanage finances like that.
Yeah.
It helps me keep things organized and compartmentalized so that I'm not robbing Peter to pay Paul.
That makes a lot of sense, Pete. One, it sounds like you're taking what was at first a small business. You're not so small anymore, but you treated a small business with kind of a big corporate sophisticated mentality when it comes to how the money needs to be run out.
I think that's the most important financial decision I ever made in my company, was to separate out funds so that, the spray side of the business buys the fertilizer that the spray guys apply.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The gas money that goes into lawnmowers comes out of the maintenance side of the business because they use the lawnmowers. And that's just made it easier on me.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a little bit trouble to go through the checks and, well, this one's a maintenance, put it in this pile. This one's a spray, put it in this pile. This one's that, put it over here. But when you get a system down for that, it becomes easier to do that part.
Yeah.
But just having all that stuff organized, it makes things way easier on me.
Where did you learn that? I mean, when it comes to the kind of the business finance side of things, was there an author, a book, a mentor? Who did you learn this stuff from?
20 years ago, my wife and I had some very severe debt, and we were drowning pretty much. And at church, we took a course called Financial Peace.
Yeah, Dave Ramsey
with
stuff.
Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
Literally changed our life. And we did the snowball thing, got out of debt, been out of debt ever since.
Good for you.
And just that philosophy of managing your money in especially a biblical way, and being diligent with your money, honoring God with your money, and then being just overall smart with it. I got a lot of money coming in. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
I do. I've been blessed. but I don't just go crazy with it.
Yeah.
Like, some people might think you would. So you just have to have some wisdom and maturity to be able to manage that kind of money. I've always taught my kids that too, that if you make 10, you cannot spend 11. The math don't, I know it sounds elementary, dude, and super simple, but it's just basic math. If you make 10, don't spend 11. Period.
Well, it's the hardest thing, right?
It's extremely difficult.
Keep the ego in check, because you look around you and you say, well, he has that and she has this and I want that, but reining that in.
It's extremely difficult to do, but you got to be disciplined to do that stuff.
Yeah. Well, talk us through, you mentioned, the more your team grew, you just could do more, right? Capacity grew. How did you approach kind of the demand? Did you ever have like a wait list that you and your one guy couldn't get to everything and that's how you knew to grab a second person? Or you just grabbed a second person and you trusted that it was going to blow up once you had a second person?
When I got to the point to where it was 9:30 and 10 o'clock at night and I was still on the lawnmower.
Got it.
With a light system I had rigged up and put across the front of the mower so that I could see at night to mow. That's when I knew.
So you had committed to so many lawns, and to fulfill those commitments, you had to have an extra person.
Or keep working till midnight.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Which we talked about in the last episode.
Exactly.
That has a cost.
Yeah. So I've been through that twice.
Yeah.
Physically, boots on the ground,
Yeah.
working way too many hours.
Yeah.
And when you sit down and look at the math, you got all this money coming in, you're like, gosh, I can actually afford to pay someone and be consistent paying them and get the work done and get home by 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, when we've talked then about, the skill set of the technical knowledge of how to care for a lawn and how to make a landscape beautiful. We've talked about, the skill set of training other people to think the way you think and be in particular. But then, management is its own skill set. And so then talk me through how did that pivot then of having a crew leader, having somebody who's not just doing the work, but they also are helping other people get the work done.
Yeah, I think that's based on how you grow. At a certain point, like you said, you can't do it all yourself, and you need another Pete to run things. So I would pick people like Robert and Jeremy and Josh that I felt had company's best interest at heart. They want the company to succeed. Yeah. They want us to do good, and they follow the systems that I put in place. And that's kind of how I, go about picking who's going to be a crew leader and who's not. It's a maturity level there.
Yeah.
And
give me some specifics on that. So let's say I'm on the job site, or I've got multiple job sites. I'm watching my guys work. I've got 2 guys here, 3 guys here, 2 guys here. And I like what you said there, that you're looking for people who they want the company to win. They're not just clocking in, clocking out. They're not just, living for the dollar, but they're thinking about the bigger picture. What am I seeing to tell that someone's got that quality?
Well, I'm looking for a leader, someone who's not going to be standing around pointing fingers saying, yeah, well, you need to do that way or do this way. I'll be over here at the truck and I'll check on you in a minute. I want somebody who's going to jump in there and get their hands dirty and physically show how to do something.
Yeah.
You can talk me to death all day, but if you don't show me that you know how to do it with your hands, I'm probably not going to believe you. And so that's been a big thing with me choosing crew leaders is you need to be willing to get in there with your crew, with your helper, and get the job done with them.
Got it. Well, and I love that highlighted. So for anybody listening right now that maybe you don't own the company, maybe you're working in landscape and you're thinking, hey, someday I want to be a leader or someday I want to own my own company. Pete nailing it. The idea that there is no standing around. If
not in this profession.
If that list is all checked off and you're waiting to be done, then grab a broom, grab the blower and clean up something.
It's real easy to pick up on guys who are the go-getter mentality.
Yeah.
When you got a group of guys standing around at the end of the day waiting to go home, but you got this one guy over here who just grabs the broom and starts sweeping the shop floor.
Yeah.
Just something that simple.
Yep.
Just to keep things cleaned up. Yep. You pick up on that kind of stuff, and that kind of helps you figure out, well, he'd probably make a pretty good crew leader.
So now that's easier to see once they're already on the team and once you're already working with them and you've got all day long that you can keep eyes on them. How do you then, let's switch over, how can you tell in kind of the hiring process? Now I hear that you primarily went to your team first and said, hey, do you know a guy? Are you willing to vouch for a guy? But talk to us about the hiring process as a business owner. How do you look at somebody and talk to somebody and know, I think they'd be a good fit?
You can't. I mean, you can't do that. And I'm pretty good at reading a person.
Yeah.
I can talk with someone for 10, 15 minutes, and I can pretty much read you pretty good. But it's hard to see through a lie. And we've been through that 100 times.
Yeah.
I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, and then get them in the field, and you can't do this, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a risk you take. It's just a judgmental thing on you that you have to kind of figure out what someone's about simply by talking to you. And of course, you get references and all that kind of thing.
Sure.
I've had that happen 100 times. I can do this, that, and this, and then call the reference, and no, you don't want to hire that guy. He's nothing what he says. Wow. So you want to make sure we have actual formal forms like a new hire sheet.
Yeah.
Where we get references and all that kind of thing, and we call them and check on them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best thing you can do is call a previous employer.
I like that.
And figure out, well, is the guy actually did what he said he did?
Well, I like that as a next level step because I'm sure there are a lot of people listening that they've got, an application process or an interview process, but actually calling references, that's not something that a lot of people take the time for because it takes a lot of time. You call somebody, leave a voicemail, they don't get back to you for a couple of days, you're in a hurry for a hire. But I hear you say that that's a really imperative part of the process.
Yeah, but that step saves you a ton of time in the long run.
Got it.
A lot of time.
I like that.
Yeah, because if you can get especially if it's a reference you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Like another lawn care company, and you might know them through the way or whatever, and they say, yeah, that guy he's just not cut out for it. Sometimes you can limit the headache moving forward.
Well, let's close the loop then, because I heard you there say, hey, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you end up with somebody in your crew that they're not working out. So I'm sure there are people listening that, they've got the business, they've got the crew. Some guys are doing great and killing it, but let's say they hired somebody and this person's just not working. People don't typically like confrontation. Having that hard conversation of, hey, this isn't working, that's tough for people to do. And sometimes that takes a long time to ask someone to leave when they shouldn't be there. How do you handle that? How do you handle those conversations?
Those are very tough for me.
Yeah.
Because I got a pretty soft heart when it comes to people.
Yeah.
And I like to show compassion and grace toward people because I know that people have trouble. And whenever we do have to go through something like that, I always bring in another employee with me.
Got it.
Strictly for witness reasons. And I typically give people way more chances than they probably deserve. And I'm flipping that around on me. If I were the employee and I screwed up 10 times, I would probably be fired. Whereas I'm going to try and help the employee get through that hurdle or over that hurdle, and trying to give them more opportunity to do the right thing at work and so then keep their job.
Yeah.
Because, I don't want them to lose their job. I don't want them to have to go get another job. Unless they just want to. So that's extremely hard for me to do. And my wife would tell you the same thing. I just do not like sitting down with anybody and having that conversation and have to tell them you don't have a job anymore.
Yeah. When it seems like that tactic of compassion and training and trying to get people back on the right track, it seems to be really successful for you. The fact that you've got the people working for you as long as they have and your business continues to grow.
Well, like I said, they're my friends before they're my employees.
Yeah.
And, we share birthday parties together and stuff like that with kids and all kind of things. And I've really taken my role as a business owner to be able to help people, my employees specifically, meaning if they need some money to go do this, if their refrigerator conked out and they can't buy one, I go buy them a refrigerator. One guy needed new tires on his truck. He got a ticket and got pulled, didn't have any money. I went and bought him new tires and put them on his truck. So it's about being in a position to be able to help people get through life and navigate life. And the bonus is you get to work in nice, pretty green grass and get a paycheck to do it. You know what I mean?
It's not bad work.
Yeah. So you know, I take that part very, very seriously as being a leader in a helpful kind of way to the person, not as an employer.
Yeah. Well, and I love that paradigm as a successful business owner. It's not just how many contracts, how many lawns, how many jobs, how big a revenue can I generate, but you're thinking about the lives that you've got. It's how many families can I help care for?
Not only am I growing turf, I'm growing a person.
Yeah.
You know, helping someone that you never know, that person, that employee may not even know what it had to be a dad, to have a dad.
Yeah.
You just don't know that kind of thing. You don't know what this person's going through at home. So I want to be the light at the end of the tunnel for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, anytime I can do anything for an employee, that doesn't mean I roll over. Sure. I'm not a soft. Well, you can't. I'm not a softie. I keep my guys in line.
Sure.
But when there's a separation there, when they need help, actual help with life, I'm the first person they need to come to because I'm gonna be the first one to help them.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so I know you're talking a lot about how to care for your guys, that they're friends first, not employees first. How, like, you see them as family, you're willing to jump in. How do you get there? Because I know a lot of what we hear feedback from guys working in the industry and having these businesses and crews, everyone's saying the same thing, that retention is such a problem, that you train somebody up and then they don't work out or they go somewhere else, or, you know, it's in this industry, like you said, there's so many crews in towns these days. Well, I can go over here and I can make 50 cents more. I can go over here making $1 more. And how do you retain your guys? What do you think that you're doing that's keeping people around?
Well, number one is I think you have to build a relationship with the person. And they need to understand that, well, Pete's not perfect either. Pete might mess up, and the employee might need to show me a little bit of grace every now and then, and understand that could happen going forward.
You're trying to tell me bosses aren't perfect?
No, they're not. They're not. Believe me, I know one right here that's not perfect. You definitely have to take care of your employees, and that starts with, I believe, how you price your work out, how much you charge, because you can't go mow a yard for $20 and then turn around and expect to offer benefits and a high level of pay and vacation time and holiday time, paid sick time. You can't do all of that charging $20 to mow a yard.
Okay, so I love this connection here, because I know that you got business owners who are trying to be the affordable one, right? Maybe they're new to the industry and they're trying to undercut other guys and say, well, I can do the job cheaper. But then you're directly connecting the price of your service, the cost of your service, to your ability to take care of people and grow a company.
It goes back to basic math.
Yeah.
It's just basic math. 1 + 1 = 2. You know what I mean? And I'll be the first one to tell you, I am not the cheapest company on the block, but I have employees that are happy and do really good work and have been here for a long time, and my customer retention rate is through the roof because they don't see a different dude in the yard every week. They see the same guy there, the same time, every single week, doing the same repetitive motions and leaving their property looking good, and they pay us a premium to do that. And so I'm able to offer paid time off, paid holidays off, a 401k to my guys, a competitive wage of pay.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I'm able to bless them and give when the time's there that they need me to help out.
I love that. Well, and so a lot of things you just listed off, I've heard from guys say, hey, this is the work that it is. You're not going to find benefits here. You're not going to find retirement here. Like,
that's a load of crap. I don't go for that. Because if you do ultra high quality work, people will pay for that. I'm that guy. I will pay a premium price to get something done right the first time and that it lasts. I'm wired like that. I don't mind spending the money on quality, But what does tick me off is when I pay something and I don't get what I paid for. That's when you have a problem with me. And so I look at that through the customer eyes. When my guys go out, they're paying for a premium service. You better give them a premium service.
Well, and that's a great reflection point. So if you got anybody listening that they're thinking, hey, I've got a retention problem. I can't do good work because I can't keep my guys. Well, maybe you need to flip that problem around, right? Well, are you doing good enough work
Exactly.
that you can charge enough that you can take care of your people?
Yeah, and if you can't justify charging a certain amount of money, then maybe the whole employee route isn't for you.
Yeah.
Because in order for you to have employees and keep them happy and retain them, they got to live their life too. You know what I mean? They got house payment, they got car payment, they got kids they got to feed. So they have to make that income to be able to do that.
Well, and this is some hard truth. I mean, you're really asking people to look in the mirror and say, because it's so easy to say that, the retention problem is, the young generation of workers or the culture these days or all this other stuff going on. And they want to blame a lot of things for why I can't keep a crew. But maybe you should start with the mirror first.
Sometimes you need to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Am I the kind of leader I need to be? Am I treating people with respect and relationship? Are we doing good work?
And are you charging enough?
Yeah.
Are you selling yourself short?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I'm charging $40 to do this job, should I be charging $80? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because my quality justifies it's worth $80.
Have you, and I imagine over the years that you've raised your prices gradually, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just part of doing business. I know this is a bit of a side note here, but have you ever gotten are there any pushback stories of going to a customer and say, hey, it's going to be a price increase, or hey, next year it's going to be a little bit more?
Every once in a blue moon, we'll get somebody, but typically our price increases go up as things increase in price to us.
Got it.
When our fertilizers, because we buy fertilizer by the tractor trailer load.
Yeah.
So it's not like it goes up $2 a bag and we're buying 5 bags. We're buying 1,000 bags at a time. So that's a big deal for us, and that's something we can't absorb. Matter of fact, about 3 years ago, we kind of did a flip in the way we do our aerating and overseeding service. We used to include it in our contract price. Now the customer pays separate for it. That's because I had a big drought out in Oregon where all the seed comes from. And I had all these set contracts, but I ended up spending about $40 grand
Ooh.
over my budget on grass seed. And I said, I'll never do that again. So now we kind of flipped that to where if we use 2 bags on the yard, the customer pays us at that time for the 2 bags.
Got it.
Versus including that into a set fixed price for them. So stuff like that you have to adjust on the fly, and you have to understand that some people ain't gonna like it. Well, I don't like adjusting your price. I don't like doing that as much as you like having to pay more. So it's a two-way thing here, but you just have to understand that you might lose a few customers here and there.
Yeah.
But when you look at the landscape of the country, and when things go up in price across the board, people understand that. Yeah. People know you gotta charge a little bit more to stay in business. You know.
So Pete, we've talked through some of the nitty gritty, right? Some of the hiring and some of the hard conversations, and some of the details of finance. What do you enjoy? I mean, of all the work that needs to get done as a business owner, as a leader of all this crew, what do you like about managing a crew and managing a company that's grown to the size that this has grown?
Getting to see people grow.
Yeah.
Personally, and mature personally. I got one. I'm not going to name his name, but I got one dude that works for me now, and when he started, I just was not sure about him. Very. I didn't think he was going to work out, but I've worked with him over the past 2 or 3 years, and I've watched him mature and become an incredible employee. Matter of fact, I'd almost call him one of my best employees.
Wow.
And to see that growth in him, just as a person change, has nothing to do with his work quality. Just as a person, what more can you ask for?
Well,
This guy's now I see him as quotes a better person or more responsible person, a more mature person, and I mean I get a kick out of that.
Yeah. Well, and what a great turnaround story too, going from someone that you didn't think was going to work, and now one of your best.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% about that, and obviously you can't leave out the physical part of my job. Meaning, when I come into a bare dirt renovation and go back a month later, and this customer has a perfectly lush green stand of turf.
Yeah.
Oh, that does it for me.
That makes your day.
That part has always gotten to me in a very serious way, to see the physical result of a change that you did to someone's property.
Yeah.
Baseball field's a big deal. When I go in there and it's just a wreck, and then I go in there and get all those lines crisped up and straightened up and get everything symmetrical, put down that fresh clay, and it looks like the Boston Red Sox infield. that does not get old to me.
Yeah. Well, you still love the work and what you do.
Oh, absolutely.
You still love the end result.
Oh, absolutely.
What would you say to the people who say, well, Pete, I hear you that, I want to be a good person. I want to take care of people, but it's so easy to get in our industry. You got into the industry with an old truck, a borrowed trailer, and a mower. And if I raise my guys up and if I help them grow, I help them mature, I help them get financially secure, if I give them all this knowledge, well, they're just going to go start their own company. So I can't train up my guys because they're going to leave me and go compete with me. What would you say to that?
So have you ever thought about it that might be part of your role as a person in life, is to help that person be successful? And if the level of success that they're looking for is more than being an employee, why would you not help them? I know that's not what people expect to hear. But
I didn't know what you were going to say. I love that.
I cannot tell you the times that I've had people quit and go out and start their own thing. And it does upset me a little bit, because I've spent all this time and money on them. That's natural for me to feel that way. But at the same time, I'm in the corner rooting for them.
Yeah.
I want them to do good. Now, don't come get my accounts. You know what I'm saying? You go get your own accounts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm rooting for them, and I've had them call me and ask me questions, and I help them. I don't hold back. I mean, why in the world would I keep some information back from someone they're just trying to make their life better for their family?
Well, and Pete, I think that speaks too much to your kind of your generous paradigm and outlook on the world, that there's enough work to do. There's enough work for everyone. If somebody wants to grow up and start their own thing, well, great.
In my neighborhood alone right here, it's 150 houses.
Yeah.
There's more than enough work for everybody out there. So, I try not to hold grudges against people that leave and go start their own thing.
Yeah.
I try to be the opposite, and I want them to succeed and do well.
Respect the heck out of that, Pete. That's fantastic. So then let's carry that thought to the end conclusion then, right? So you've had guys work under you that have gone and start their own thing. You're not afraid of that. You're not worried about that. Maybe there's plenty of people listening right now that they're working on a crew, they're growing in a company, and they're saying, hey, you know what? It might be the right time for me to jump and start my own thing. If you had to boil it down to 1-2 pieces of advice for someone who's looking to go start something, what would that be?
One is integrity and quality. I kind of bunch those together, because it goes back to what I said. If you tell somebody you're going to come do something at their property, you need to show up and you need to do it. And you need to do it to the best of your ability, and it needs to be done better than anybody else can possibly do it. That alone, that one thing alone, people, word of mouth. You know something? In 20 years, I've advertised one time.
No.
I spent $1,500 on a Yellow Pages ad. It's maybe 10 or 12 years ago.
You're dating yourself now.
Yeah. Never got the first phone call from it.
If you're listening to this and you don't know what the Yellow Pages are, you need to Google that.
Exactly. Some people are going to be like, what's a Yellow Page? So I spent the money on the ad, never got the first phone call. And that's the only time in 20 years I've ever spent a dime of money on like legitimate advertising. I've done a few gravel driveway renovation ads like on Facebook in the past 2 or 3 years, because that's kind of a niche thing to get the word out, to just let people know. But word of mouth has been the way I've grown my company since day one. And that goes back to the integrity and the quality of work. People talk. You know, when I leave this house right here, they call their buddy and say, you got to come by and look at my yard. I've never seen my yard look this clean or striped up like this or look this good. And then that guy calls. And then one of his buddy calls. So that's definitely the first piece of advice, is integrity and quality. And number two, if you make $10, don't spend 11. Basic math.
Basic math. I love it.
Basic math.
Well, you can boil it down to integrity and basic math.
Yeah. And I've literally grown my company from nothing to what it is now with those three things.
Yeah. Well, Pete, you are a wealth of not only knowledge, tactical, practical knowledge, but also just wisdom and what you're willing to share. I wish everybody had the opportunity to sit and listen to you. And if you want more of Pete's wisdom, make sure to go check out his channel on YouTube, GCI Turf. He's always dropping not only, project videos and updates on how to tackle work that needs to be done and new equipment and how to dial things in and learning from failures, but also some of this wisdom as well for growing your business. So
yeah,
Pete, I appreciate all the time, sir. This has been a
pleasure.
riot.
My pleasure.
So remember, Pete is a good friend of ABI, and we love picking his brain. We also try here on Ground Etc. to give you some exposure to other industry leaders. So if you aren't yet following Ground Etc., make sure you're following that, whether it's your podcast or YouTube channels. Check this out, stay in touch with us, and reach out to us, reach out to Pete. Both of us, like here at Ground Etc., but also I know Pete, and that's one reason we're so good friends, that we want to be available to people and answer questions. So make sure to drop your comments, engage, so we can help you get done the work that you need to get done as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks for checking in, everyone. We'll see you next time.